my name is Ilona and today it's Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. And first I just want to start with a bit laughable news, just to keep it a little bit light, because I'm going to talk about something very heavy that's happening in the Netherlands, but also in Canada. And it's a heavy subject, but I think we should talk about that. But first I'm going to start with some nonsense news. Like CNN Travel, this is from June 30th, 2023, an article, giant kites could pull cargo ships across the ocean and slash their carbon emissions. Yes, just think about that. Gigantic kites getting cargo ships across the ocean. What could go wrong? Well, let's see. If there's no wind, what's going to happen? It will be just laying there in the water. If the wind is in the wrong direction, if there's storm or heavy rains, you won't be able to do anything with that kite now, will you? So this is an interesting thing that they come up with. Nonsense news, that's what I call it. But it's focused on the climate. We're going to see more and more of these ridiculous news items about climate and how they're going to fix this. But this is giant kites on cargo ships. Interesting. Something else that I thought was quite just... They're really going in on that family of Mr. B. The Daily Mail, the highest office, White House guesses game begins after certain substance was found in library, forced hazmat evacuation. 2 days after recovering certain substances, the son of Mr. B, Hunter, was on the property. So this is just a normal media outlet. This is from the Daily Mail, actually mentioning that apparently in the White House a certain substance was found that was actually in the original ingredient in Coca-Cola. So you could guess what that was. And apparently Hunter was there actually with his laptop, wondering what's on that one. But just the fact that they are actually putting those things together, the fact that this is coming out now, it's really the end of this family. They really are, even in the media, coming out with those things. But it was kind of hilarious in a way. On the Independence Day, they come out with this. That's done on purpose. So interesting that they're talking about this. Now we're getting to the Netherlands, because again, we have Minister Jette. That is the man that came up with, he wants to use, I think, we call it miljard, I think it's billions. I think it's billions in English, if I'm not mistaken. I've made that mistake before, but it's the billions in English. He wants to use that to make sure that by 2050, I think I've mentioned this before, that the how do you say this, the Celsius will drop with 0.000036. It's not even 1 degree. Not even 1 degree. And he wants to talk about this funding, and he's actually already threatening that if the opposition parties do not agree with this funding, then he will get these billions another way. But he's going to get them one way or the other. And if he's going to get them in the other way, he really mentioned this in a debate, then of course they won't know how he's going to use them. Because if there is a funding, they can have something to say about where it will be used for. And if he's going to use the other route, well, then they won't have anything to say about this. This is politics here in the Netherlands. This is manipulation at the highest level. And I'm so happy that this is actually in a news article, so everyone can read what Jette is really about. He's actually admitting to that is what he's going to use. So yes, this is really about waking up people. Now, there is something else I want to talk about. This is something in Belgium, which is also important. And it's, of course, not just affecting Belgium, but also the Netherlands and worldwide. This is something they want to roll out, and it has to do with politics, but then on a province level. So you have city councils, you have provinces. And this is like they want to regulate things. This is from the province Oost-Vlaanderen in Belgium. And they came up with this brilliant thing. This is really just, it's similar to what they're doing here in the farmers in the Netherlands. But they want to make sure in certain areas in Oost-Vlaanderen, they want to create these zones, certain zones. And most of this is all in Dutch, so I'm just trying to recap in English what's going on. So all these zones, and this has to be dedicated to the climate. So everyone that's living there has to move to a certain center, village center, or like city centers that they will pick. And that is just so they can provide them with more things. In reality, it's the 50-minute city. So they want everyone leaving these houses where they've been living for all this time, move them away, get rid of those houses, then create other areas. And of course, they want all shoved in cities and villages so they can fully control you. This is from the province coming. Sorry about that. So the city councils there have been 14 city councils coming together. They already made an advice completely obliterating this plan because there is no clarity. There is not anything like what's going on, what's really going on. They vague, how do you say this, words they use in this vision, in this plan that they have. And there's also, I'm sorry about that. I should have some water here, but they also have this, you can still respond. So if I've already mentioned this in my Dutch video for people watching from Belgium, maybe even living in that area or maybe knowing people that live in that area, to send them this so they can understand that they can still react. They can actually disagree with this and send this in before July 19th. So there is a possibility that this plan will not go through, and I don't think it will, but it's important that people realize that they're doing this in the background and that a lot of things locally are not known to a lot of people. And maybe it is important to just keep an eye on all these local things that they come up with, or these provinces come up with these policies and regulations, because it all has to do with this agenda. They want to push people in these cities, these smart cities. They want to full control of all these people. So I also, it's interesting, I also read what the city councils, that these are 14 city councils, what they're talking about, that this really is just so vague. It's really not based on anything. And where are these zones based on, and what's going to happen with the people living there that have to move? What kind of damages will come for them because they won't be able to sell their houses, of course, things like that. So there's already some backlash coming in, and I really hope that people there are actually going to take the time to react to it and disagree with it, and of course oppose what's being proposed. But it's interesting. This is also about 2050. So I also read the policy the province came out with, and again, it's such innovation, and this is for the climate, and they use all these vague terms just to confuse people, so people don't even have a clue what's really being said, and that they do that on purpose so they can change things, manipulate it, and then say later on, it was in our plans all along. They keep it as vague as possible, and that was one of the issues that the city councils came up with. Like, people can't even fully read what's going on. It's not feasible. It's really how they're going to do this. So there's already backlash happening, but it's very important for people to also react, and for people not just in that area, but also in Belgium, in the Netherlands, Germany, just worldwide, to really look at their local politics and see if there may be some things happening there as well, because they really are pushing that agenda. So it's important for people to realize that. So I really wanted to talk about that as well. And of course, I will leave unfortunately, it's all in Dutch, so I am going to place this on my Telegram channel. And now there is something that's really tough for me to talk about, but it's necessary, I believe. This is from Fox News. So this was actually published on June 28th, 2023. And this is about Netherlands are getting rid, because I cannot use this word, autistic and intellectually handicapped people, researchers find. So in the Netherlands, it's legal to help people really leave the earth plane, to assist them. And this is researchers done by the Kingston University. And they really looked at these programs. And Netherlands programs have getting rid of otherwise healthy individuals with autism and intellectual handicaps in recent years, researchers have found. 5 individuals under the age of 30 who cited autism as a factor in their decision to seek legal assistance are among the cases reviewed by specialists at the UK's Kingston University. Factors directly associated with intellectual disability and/or ASD, so that's autism spectrum, were the sole cause of suffering described in 21% of cases and a major contributing factor in a further 42% of the cases. This is really kind of shocking. The study noted that in many cases, doctors determined there was no prospect of improvement for intellectually challenged individuals because there is no treatment for their handicap. So then they assisted them. They helped assisting them. And the palliative care specialist Irene Toffrey-Wijnen, one of the lead authors of the Kingston University report, found Dutch doctors were, legally taking care of patients who sought their own, they needed assistance because their intellectual disability or mental condition prevented them from leading a normal life. One record includes the case of a Dutch woman in her 30s with autism and borderline personality disorders. And doctors determined her afflictions prevented her from maintaining relationships and made forming connections with others too difficult. So this is, it's really, there's no doubt in my mind these people were suffering, Toffrey-Wijnen said. But is society really okay with sending this message that there's no other way to help them and it's just better to be dead? Dutch psychology Dr. Bram Sisu expressed horror at the trend of autistic youths seeking help and assistance with leaving the earth plane. Some of them are almost excited at the prospect of death. They think this will be the end of their problems and the end of their family's problems. And this is really awful. And I do want to talk about this. I actually did a card reading, just the energy behind this as well. This is not just happening in the Netherlands. In Canada, there are also been cases, they try to, if I'm not mistaken, someone came back from the war and was, had injuries and needed help. I think she was calling about a staircase lift so she could use the stairs. Because of her disability from the war injuries. And they were talking to her about, have you thought about leaving the earth plane? Assistance. And she was completely shocked. And she actually spoke openly about this in public. Like, what is going on here? So in Canada, they're also trying to push this agenda. Like people with mental disabilities, people with like here in the Netherlands then. I didn't even know this was happening, although I have seen a documentary here in the Netherlands about a woman that was had a lot of trauma and a lot of personality disorders, and no one could help her because she was such a tough case. And so she decided to get assisted help to leave the earth plane. And it was really very shocking in a way to me. But this is happening on a larger scale, so to speak. This may seem like there's not a lot of people, but still, just helping people. First of all, this was actually for diseases and people that were in unbearable positions and unbearable pain and suffering because of diseases. There was no way out. There was not, there was not going to be an how do you say that? It was not. When people are in that position, it's not going to get better, so to speak. But with disabilities and with autism, it's very strange that these are the things to, is there not any other support? And then we, of course, get to this entire discussion. I also shared a text from Gabor Mate, a doctor, talking about that our normal life is not normal. And that a lot of people are living with traumas, with events that are not being processed, that people don't live through, that's shadow work, so to speak. He doesn't mention that as shadow work, but that's how I see it. When you have certain things happening to you and it's not resolved and you just carry on, it has an effect on everything. It has an effect on your life. It has an effect on how you raise your children. It has an effect on society. And we live in a society that's really, we shouldn't think of it as normal. Nobody is really taught how to deal with the emotions, with their feelings at school. That should be something that should just be normal in families, to talk about those things, to help and support each other. But it's of course purposely done by the dark energies to keep people as isolated as possible, as dysfunctional as possible. And when people have certain problems and disorders, they just get all these pills. Take a pill, you're going to be fine, with all kinds of side effects. We are of course aware of all these things happening around the world with people losing it, shooting, things like that. And ultimately, most of them, of course, beside certain programs, they were programmed on a certain level, they all use certain substances, certain pills. And it's been kept out of the media, but I believe all these, what's happening, all these shootings and things like that in America and worldwide are happening by people that are under the influence of all kinds of substances and pills and pharmaceuticals and things like that. But it's kind of swept under the rug. They don't want you to connect the dots there. And I just want to, it's just so sad. So I'm going to show you the cards that I've got. First of all, the Ten of Swords. We have the central card, the Lover's card. Then we have in the past, the Devil. That's very suitable. We've got the Three of Cups under the Lover's card. And then for the future, we have the Judgment and the Knight of Pentacles. I think we should really, this is really about changing this entire system. I also wanted to mention that I shared a clip a couple of days ago from a doctor that talking about children that aren't stinked. And when I'm talking about stinks, I'm not just talking about what the last 3 years, that stink that came on, but also the children. They get a lot of stinks. They get all these things they need to get. And that there are no cases of children that haven't got anything, so they didn't get any stinks. And autism, there isn't any. So all the children that have autism have stinks. So that's interesting. So this doctor came up with that. Also, Robert Kennedy Jr. is talking about the damage of stinks on children and what that has, effect that has on their development and what's going on. So all these things are going to come out. So it's really, this is really, of course, about the ending. This is, of course, this entire method is an ending. And it's also reminded me of what happened before the Second World War, of course, in Germany. In a certain time period, just before that, we had these angels of death. These were these nurses going around and really giving children with disabilities, people with certain diseases, they gave them stings to remove them. They were a burden to society. So this is all part from these dark energies. This is all part of their agenda. They want to get rid of people as much as possible. And sorry about that. It's probably because this also, in a way, it's a tough subject. But the Devil card is really about, all these dark energies. And they are a cult of death. they really see death as something beautiful, like this release, and they want everyone dragged into it. That's why they keep us as sick as possible, and they want to get rid of as many people as possible. This is all part of it. They probably bring this as, oh, look at, you're going to be released of all these burdens. You don't have to be lonely anymore. You don't have to feel sad anymore. And you'll be able to just, you'll be rid of all that without realizing, of course, or probably realizing at a very deep level. I believe the dark energies who've created this at a very deep level fully understand this. Spiritually cutting people off in a way, because you are not respecting your soul in a way when things like that happen. And I'm not talking about people that are already at the end of their lives and helping them and supporting them. That's something completely different. Because I do believe you. I don't know what's going on now, and I don't want to start all over because I've already been talking for 20 minutes. So, and my other video was also long, so that's probably why my throat is a little, but this is a tough subject to talk about. So usually when things like that happen, that I do get a little bit my throat happening. So it's suitable with this subject, but we need to speak about this as well. They show this as death is something like the end of everything, and then you'll be happy, but people don't realize we are spiritual beings. So it's especially in these cases, and I'm not talking about people that are already at the end of their lives and just getting support and help with it. I am talking about these cases like with, disorders and things like that. There is help, and if you, do this before your time, in essence, that has an effect spiritually, a massive effect on you. So it's very, of course, that's why it's so important for the dark energies to disconnect us from our spiritual side, to disconnect us in a way from God, not realizing that we're spiritual beings. It's about making a choice for ourselves, about living, about making a choice for life. There are so many people that are, because of everything that happened to them and not fully understanding traumas, dysfunction, that we can heal these things. We are capable of healing that. We are very powerful, and life is really to enjoy. The dark energies took that away because they wanted to use our energies. So they made sure that our energies were used for other things that helped them and support their agenda. This will help wake people up as well. And this is also about completely changing our health system, and especially our mental health system. Because there is so much wrong in that, to me, I do believe there are people working there to really try to help people, but it's a corrupt system. It's a toxic system. And really, there's going to be a completely new system coming in with a new way of handling things and supporting people at a completely different level. But this, as a humanity, is also choosing life, choosing to celebrate life, and to understanding that we are spiritual beings. We are so powerful. Ultimately, we can heal ourselves completely. But, we are in this process of stepping into our power. There's nothing wrong with natural supplements, helping yourself with the food you eat, the support you ask for. If you need help, that you get people to help you. There is nothing wrong with that, helping each other. But it's very important as humanity that we really choose for love, for our spiritual side, for God, for seeing ourselves as spiritual and really starting to enjoy life, so we can also support other people that need our help, that are still vulnerable, that we can help in other ways. Because I do not believe that this is any solution for anything. And really, it's just very sad, but this needs to be talked about, and things will change in the future. But this needs to come out. And people need to talk about that. Is this really, I do ask this question, is this okay to have all these young people confused, of course, with a lot of dysfunction? Let's just see what's going on in the world around us. Everything is falling apart. A lot of people are losing their, their safety, their security, because it's now time to step up in our own power. It's now time to really connect with ourselves. And, we need to be there to help other people also find their way and connect with themselves, connect with God and their soul. that I do not believe this is the way, but it's important that this is coming out, and I really wanted to talk about this. So I hope to see you in another video, and well, bye.